Okay, so this is going to be a little bit, I sort of let you know. So 5 things I wish I knew when I got started is a little bit of is a little bit sort of, I don't know, I'm going to say business oriented. It's a little bit more along the idea of assuming you're making something, now what? Like, how do you do the next thing? So that might be business, like capital B. And it might be business in a slightly different idea. But what I'm kind of going for is like, this is sort of slightly abstract ideas that have practical ends, if that kind of makes sense. Think like talking about art practice the other way is like very heady. But this is going to be a little bit heady. I don't know. I can't figure out how to say it. Anyway, hopefully you'll find something here that really you sort of feels like it applies to you. I sent you worksheets. Some of this you can fill out now. Some of this is like you wouldn't do it in the next 15 minutes. You'd never get through it. Or and some of it is like, I don't understand why we're doing this at all. Like, so I had a pastor once who like would say sometimes about before a sermon, he would say, this sermon is going to be a little bit like fish. Like, eat the meat and spit out the bones, okay? So kind of what I want to tell you is, like, if there's anything on the sheet that just feels like bones, like, just disregard, okay? It's this my 5 things that I have discovered in my own journey. So they may or may not apply to you. But I've got 30-plus years of making stuff. And so this is sort of related to the way that I think about things. Okay, here's the good news. Having an art practice or an art career is relatively easy. Here's the bad news. Making it sustainable, and that's the key. Making it sustainable is hard. I'm seeing some nods, so I think, yeah, a lot of you already know, like, a lot of you know this already. Okay, what do I mean by sustainable? When I say this again, I'm used to talking to students. I'm going to come down here. Okay. Is this okay? Okay. I just feel like weirdly on stage. So when I'm talking to students, did I wreck your ability to see me? Okay, sorry, John Pauly. I keep forgetting, like, people are recording stuff. When I say this to students, they say, like sustainable, you mean like make money? Like, well, yes, I kind of mean that. I mean, that's part of it. And then, because that's where their brains are right now. Like, they need a job. So sustainable to them means money. But I will say, I'm not necessarily trying to help you and like make your living as an artist, make however much money, blah, 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 what you see on Instagram all the time. Like, you just need enough money that it pays for itself. Now, you might want more, and there's strategies for that, but I'm not trying to say sustainable means you're able to do it full time as a career. There's reasons for not doing that, actually. With people who are not students but are older, they're usually thinking about time. Like, what? Yeah, that's all great, but when am I going to find time? Like, I need more time. Like, you get older, you realize that time is the more precious resource than the money, right? So yes, I'm also talking about time, but I'm not necessarily talking about a lot of time. Could be an hour a week. It could be less. It just depends on your circumstances. But this kind of gets to that question I was kind of answering before, like setting aside time and being very specific about it is the most important thing. So yes, I'm talking about those 2 things. The main thing I'm talking about, though, is how do you feed your soul? Like, the most important thing to your art practice being sustainable is that you're passionate about it. If you can keep the passion for your work, you'll figure out everything else. You will make everything else work so that you can keep doing it. As soon as you lose the passion, it doesn't matter what else you have, You could have all the money and all the time. You will not make art. So that might be okay. It may be that stopping making art allows your like you can follow your passion wherever it's going. And that like giving it up means you can do the other thing. So I have ADHD and dyslexia. Okay. Great combination. I want to do all the things all the time. Right now. All the things right now. So it's helpful for me to recognize, like, I can let go of something so that I can do something else. So for me, like, that recognition is kind of a big one. Okay. First one, hardest one. Are you primarily an artist with a business, or are you in the business of making art? Okay, now when I wrote that, I bet it makes you think, oh, there's a right answer here. There is not a right answer here. Both are totally workable. You can be business first. I need to make money with my art. In part because it means, if you have an art space that's tiny and it gets cluttered full of stuff, you either have to sell it or throw it away at some point, right? Or get more or give it away. But it might be that being a little business forward allows you to actually get the stuff out the door. It's incredible. So I have what I'm making now. I also have a wholesale pottery business. And the wholesale pottery business is in part because people order pots. I make pots. They go out the door. Brilliant. Money comes in. Not a lot of money, but money comes in. And that means like I can make, it sustains me, but I'm very B2B, business to business. I've got a business model that I follow. It's very business forward. So I have part of my practice is me being in the business of making art. The rest of my practice is I'm an artist primarily with a business. The thing that feeds my soul the most is to make whatever I want, to explore, to make things that I think are like deep and complicated and expensive and nobody ever is going to buy them. And they're made out of like cheap stuff, which you will see in the other room. Like if you take a bunch of locust seed pods and cover them in blue flocking and hang them on an old pegboard that you found in the trash, there is a very limited market for a piece like that. Okay? But it feeds my soul. So making the wholesale pots allows me to make enough money to make the other piece. The thing is, I only want to do the making the business thing 20% of the time. I'd rather spend 80% of my time doing the passion thing. So the place that people get stuck, and man, I have been stuck here millions of times, and I'm sure I will do it again, is they try to do 50-50. You try to be both an artist and a business, you will be miserable, at least in my experience, if you try to do that. You end up saying either the people who get to make what they want, they say, nobody appreciates me, nobody appreciates my work, I can never sell my work, I'm super poor. Why won't the world stand up and take notice of me? Right? The people on the other side who have a profitable business, you know what they say? I never get to make what I want. I can't ever do, I'm stuck in this like golden handcuffs problem where like I have to make what people expect of me. So understand you're going to have a problem either way. Pick one. Pick the one that's best for you. Don't try to do both. Or be intentional of saying, I'm going to spend a quarter of my year doing this model so that I can spend 3/4 of my year doing the other model. Or I'm going to spend every Friday doing this model so I can spend the other 4 days of the week doing the other model. Do you see what I'm saying? These are stances that you can take. You can switch back and forth. But I don't recommend you try to switch back and forth 50-50 with your time. I would recommend something more like 80-20, 75-25, something like that. Have one is more truly you. Figure out which one those is. Be that one the most of the time. How are you going to figure out which one is mostly you? You're going to experiment. And then you're going to like figure out, oh, this was fun, and now it isn't. Okay, great. Go to the other one. Okay. The other, again, I'm ADHD. This is not my favorite place to be. You must make a plan. And then you must hold it loosely. Yeah, right? Yes. Plans, Mr. Yuck. Wah. Yes. Yeah, so it's just so like personality wise, like there's such a different reaction to this. Some people are like, I am all about the plan all day. Give me a plan so I know kind of like I need a landscape. I need to be able to see it. If I see it, then I can move. Other people are like, oh, don't tie me down with a plan, right? Like, totally. There is a book. There's an online free book called Making Your Life as an Artist. It's by, I think, did I put a little, in the worksheet, I think I put the, yes, it's Andrew Simonet, and the website is called Creator U. Artist U. Artist with a U. .org or com or whatever. If you Google Making Your Life as an Artist, you'll find it, okay? But it's the best planning resource I've ever seen for artists, and it's free. Oh, by the way, throw him some money, okay? Like, he's giving it away for free, but with a suggested donation, like, throw him like a $5 through Venmo or something. Like, it's totally worth it. Anyway, it's really, I take my students through this every year, my senior capstone students. There's a 2-year planning guide. Talks about how to make a plan, how to shoot for something big, like aim super crazy big. I put the basics of it on the worksheet, so you can actually kind of use that and follow it along. Another important thing about the way that he plans is he says, we are going to go past 12, clearly. I'm on 2. Write down your priorities professionally, personally, and artistically. Like, make them in 3 categories. And then let them sit and then come back to them, edit as you need. And then here's the hard part. Pick 3 that are going to be the most important ones for the next 2 years. They are not 3, 1 from each category. They are 3 from whatever category, whatever 3 is the most important. It doesn't matter what the category is. Here's the thing that made that so helpful for me. I do this with my students every year, even though it's a 2-year plan, but it helps me revisit it. The first time I did this, Elaine and I had a daughter starting college and a son who was 4 years behind her in high school. And he was just starting high school, and she was just starting college. And I wrote out my priorities, and my priorities were like, help my daughter survive college and get comfortable and get settled in, and help my son survive high school. Like, those were the first 2 priorities. Totally legit. When I saw that, I was like, I am not going to make a lot of work this year. Absolutely fine. I needed to actually see there's so much stuff going on in my life. I need to not have unrealistic expectations that I'm going to spend 15 hours a week in the studio. Like, that is not going to happen. Do you see what I mean? So his plan idea is really holistic, and it's just super helpful to go like, okay, I'm going to have like an hour a week. Like, that's all I'm going to have. Great. Then work with the hour a week. It's totally fine. So anyway, highly recommend that as a resource for you. Art is about relationships. I just talked about the Dorothy Sayers model, which the whole creative act is an act of relationships. This is so, so important, and my students are oftentimes great at relationships with themselves, terrified of relationships with people outside of themselves, making new relationships. If you concentrate on the relationships, everything, like, you actually have to put time in your schedule as part of your studio practice to work on relationships. Everybody says, oh, I'll go to the studio and I'll make stuff, and then, I'll take care of those relationships whenever, later. Yeah, no. It is part of your practice. Make it a priority. Those relationships include relationships with other artists. Like, I don't know, let's say your church that you went to had a small group in which artists happened to get together in multiple media. I might join that. You're welcome for the plug. You need people who do the same thing you do. You need people whose art is not like yours, but they get you. You need to actually prioritize spending time with those people talking about art. You also need, this is like most people think about, gallerists, curators, museum people, whatever that is. Okay, look, if one of your goals is to get into a gallery and you're not going to galleries like every month, that's a problem. If you don't, this is me talking to students, so sorry if this is like overkill. If you don't like going to galleries, don't try to make art for galleries. Make art and sell it on Instagram, whatever. I don't know. Go do fairs and festivals. Like, you can adjust. You do not have to have a gallery, but you need to have some way that you collect around people who have similar interests to you. If it's not the gallery, it's someplace else. But you need to prioritize building the relationships that will allow you to have those things. Part of that, practicing generosity. That group of friends that you have, or artists that you like, or artists that are ahead, like that you've seen on, I don't know, wherever, in a gallery or in social media or whatever. Send them a note. I make my students make a generosity list, a gratitude list. That's, I think, is also in there, which is like anybody who's inspiring you in any way, like just start making a list. I keep a list on my phone. Like, it's my gratitude list of like people, sort of like randomly be like, oh, that Paul Simon song was amazing. Paul Simon, like I'll put him in, I did this. And then I sent him a note on I slid into his DMs. The kids like to say. And then I was like, hey, this song that you did, like I was feeling like a certain way, but I felt like that song was like so important for me in the moment. I really needed it. Thank you for writing it. It's like 3 sentences. I don't know if he read it. Maybe not. Maybe somebody read it. I don't know. But a lot of times when you do that, you start to build these connections in new ways. I have a lot of times I'll see artwork from other artists who aren't super well known, and I'll send them a note. Do you know how good it feels to get a random note from somebody who just says, hey, I saw this work. It was really amazing. Like, that will keep you going for 6 more months. Like, easy, just on that. Practice it. Don't wait for things to come to you. Send it out into the world. Like that's the practicing the generosity part of relationships. Like, don't wait for the curators to come to you. You need to go see the curators. You know what note you send to the curators, by the way? Or the gallery people? You have an amazing eye. I really love how you put things together. They're actually doing art with other people's art. Acknowledge that. Nobody tells them that, except for other people in their industry. So forge those relationships by being generous with people. Okay, this was another hard one for me. My graduate school taught me this mantra: more, better, faster. More, better, faster. More, better, faster. That's what I thought it looked like to be an artist. If you're not succeeding, you're not trying hard enough. If you're resting, somebody else is making something. I know, it's very depressing. Okay, so anyway, I was like, oh, let's do this. All energy all the time. How much coffee do you got? Like, I will drink the coffee. I will drink the Kool-Aid. I will be up all night making all the work all the time. And that's what I thought an artist's life looked like. Again, that's sort of that inspiration model. The epiphany model, you get to choose. You get to work normal hours. You get to choose what hours you work. I don't need to finish everything right now. Here's another thing that was really helpful to me that was kind of related to this, is I got to work for a museum, the Greenville County Museum of Art. And if everybody's been to Greenville, I used to work there as their exhibition designer. I used to get to design all their exhibitions. What a great job, just saying. The museum would look at artists and say, hey, we would love you to show the work you made 5 years ago in our museum. And the artist almost always would be like, that's great, I've got new work. I could make you some new work. And the director of the museum says like, that's great that you have new work. I want the work that you made 5 years ago, that I know exactly what it is, that is ready to go right now as a show, because it fits thematically with the other things that we're doing. I don't want you to make new work. Like that work, it's not made yet. Why do I want your new work? I want the things that you've already done. And so, and Elaine is probably interiorly rolling her eyes at me right now, because I always want to make the new work for the new thing, always. But museums actually don't like that. They really want the older work. So if your idea of like making it is to get into some kind of museum or get into some galleries, you need to have a body of work that's ready to go, that you're like presenting. Here is a complete body of work ready to go for you. Not, I'm going to make this for you as soon as you say yes. Say yes to the idea that I haven't made yet. Bad idea. Right? And again, students constantly think that way. So part of the getting out of this model is to recognize that the work that you made a couple of years ago is the work you're going to show. So I don't need to go more, better, faster right now. I'm working on work that's not ready to show yet. The work that's already back there, that's the work that's ready to show. Another fun one. Whatever you think will mean you've made it, won't mean you've made it. And that's actually a good thing. I'm still trying to convince myself of this one. That's why the question mark is there. You have to develop a growth mindset, if you're familiar with that term. Growth mindsets versus fixed mindsets. So what I mean by that is, look, I have had a number of times when I've stuck a flag in the future and said, when I hit that mark, man, easy street the rest of the way. I got it. Like, as soon as I get to here, so many people will know me. It's going to be like smooth sailing. I can give up the hustle, whatever the hustle is. Yeah, Sandra's like already shaking her head. She's like, yeah, no. I've hit those marks. I've gotten into the big Japanese ceramic biennial with like a giant piece that cost $5,000. I thought, oh, well, this is going to be how I get out of like having to teach full time, because then my work is going to be internationally known and it'll be great. And then I've had this art critic who, Garth Clark, who used to own a gallery years ago, but was like the super uber maker of ceramic like gods in the world of contemporary art. I know that sounds weird, but like more like sculptural, super, like everybody knew what Garth, like if Garth Clark said you were great, okay? Like, you make a small pot, it's worth $2,000 because Garth Clark said you're great, not $50, $2,000. Yeah, okay? A kingmaker. He, like 6 years ago, put me in a group of like, here are the best things that's happened this month in the world of ceramics in the entire world. Here are the top 5. An installation that I did at Calvin College that he saw on my social media feed. I was like, Garth Clark is following me? He wrote me and said, hey, tell me about the exhibition. And I told him about the exhibition. He's like, I want to include this in like the top 5. And I'm like, bless you and your offspring forever and ever. And yeah, it's like that thing, I knew the day it was going to drop. I like anticipated it. I was like, man, when this thing drops, my social media is going to blow up. Like, I'm going to, yeah. No. Crickets. It's not all this, like, I'm so thankful for that. Don't get me wrong. Right? You aim for the big things. I'm not saying don't aim for the big things. Totally aim for the big things. Do not expect it to change everything. Like, there's a little humility in there too. But you need to shoot for them. You need to not count on them making you somehow more special. Because I'm making pottery, social media, I was like, here's my business plan. So many potters since COVID happened are like making a sick amount of money on Instagram. If I could grow my Instagram account, I could not have to do shows anymore. I could sit in my little studio and make the pots I want, and I could take pictures of them, and I can post them, and people are gonna be like, I wanna buy all your pots. And then I'll sell out of all my pots, and I'll make like $40,000 every time I do a shop drop. And you know, all I need to do like 3 a year, and I am like over the moon. All I need is 10,000 followers. I have 10,000 followers. I have 15,000 followers. Like, I've figured out how to do social media. I'm kind of slightly proud of that. Like, it was work. Like, I had to figure some stuff out. It taught me new things. I really actually weirdly enjoyed that. I've sold maybe a dozen pieces because of people who didn't already know me. I've maybe 12 people who have actually bought pots in 3 years. Okay? No, it wasn't the thing. It's fine. If I just make 20,000, I know. No. No. But I just know, like, I've done sort of the businessy. If I get in this show, I've done the artsy. If I do this, my reputation is going to explode. Like, I've tried both ends of that. They have not moved the needle in a significant way, like in the ways that I thought they would. They've been really rewarding if I just think of them as like I figured out how to do that, and I learned something along the way, and it was so cool. And I'll keep going, right? Like, that's the thing. It's just like, be careful about markers that are in the future that keep you from like doing what you need to do now. Thank you. Questions?